seemed like the natural progression of this. I mean, it was like, oh, absolutely. I'm like, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here. My friends, this is my really good friend, brother Anurag Gupta. We met many years ago. Anurag Gupta is a former Landmark Forum leader, well known in that whole world as a guide, an Uber business consultant. He's consulted for and helped grow Lululemon in magical and powerful ways years back. He's consulted for many companies, but he's more than just a business leader, a business guide. He's a man of wisdom, depth, clarity, and as you'll see, quite hilarious in many ways. And thanks for being here, brother. Really appreciate you coming on.
Welcome.
So, we were jamming before we got on really about the need or you'd find it really cool if people of wisdom, people of life experience came together to be a force of influence to our world, force of influence to companies, force of influence to culture, force of influence to governments and such. How do you feel about all that? Where do you think where we are? And do you think any of this do you think government and big business is even open to having a better world?
Well, I actually currently have a view that we can make their interests irrelevant.
We can make what, sorry, irrelevant? We
can make it irrelevant whether they want to or not.
Wow, let me hear about this. Let us hear about it.
So judging about 13 years ago, I kind of left the structured world of this, of delivering programs, stuff like that. I just felt that it was still happening inside of the current context and architecture and not breaking outside. And I took on a commitment. I actually put that thing in front of me for a long time. Einstein, you cannot solve today's problems at the same level of thinking that created them.
Yeah.
And I have a daily practice of unthinking. I don't even have quite a word for it, but like to really observe that I'm being thought by stuff and to go outside. And then I'm like, oh my, and then one of the things that happened was, well, there's a couple of things. I have a discipline of doing always my work on myself before I do with others. So I'm sharing and not delivering, or like, that's my view of it. I don't know, whatever, so some years ago, in my working on my business of transformation, I do my annual transformation on it. I go, oh my God, what if there's nothing to transform? I was like, but that's my whole life. How can I, but it disappeared. And I got, if I'm working on transforming your fear must exist so I can work on it. And, I get, it's all contextual. I mean, not to diminish anything, but it was like, so I was no longer in the transformation business. I was in the creating really cool shit business. And then this whole thing of changing the world, which was so exhausting, dropped away. And it was about, instead of trying to change the world and wrestle with it, and it's like create a new one that's so compelling everyone wants to move over.
Yes.
And many years ago, I was very responsible, do this, vote, make sure like being this and having a say, and I don't do it at all anymore. Not because, again, I diminish it, but I realized that if I'm going to be effective, why I left that world is to what would actually cause a shift, a planet trajectory shift, not just do something a little better of what we're doing. And I really studied proliferation. So the kind of the work that you and I do, I was just like, if it's so effective, why doesn't it proliferate? And I was just obsessed with, and I studied patterns of proliferation. And one of the things that revealed to me, or at least my observation of it is, all the things that proliferate, it matters not. Like, why I don't worry about voting is I have to develop something that is so effective, it doesn't matter who's in power. Like the cell phone, okay, the US military and Al-Qaeda use it, right? Or digital music or whatever it is, the internet. It's got to be so good, so compelling, so effective that it does not matter.
So from its brightness, it's already calling us over.
Yeah.
It allows us to naturally make a transition because the up value of it is already naturally inherited and expressed and felt into. So why would you want to keep any particular system that's no longer working?
Right. And so then big companies and the government, could they have a say about cell phones or other things? No, it's too pervasive, right? And the other thing to remember is that the 1% of the people that say we have all the wealth, their wealth comes from the 99%.
Yes.
We direct it and we redirect it. And I really scoured the earth. I found a beautiful example about how during apartheid in South Africa, when there was a bit of revolutionary thinking and was back and forth, and during an election, there was a person who ran in a conservative riding, and started to say, okay, I'm going to push back against this, modernization and softening. And he won on that thing, on that platform. And then, because what is it, like 80, I don't know what the percentage of the black population is black, right? But the wealth is in the hands of the white. And so instead of protesting, what they did was they started busing all of the black people to shop other places. So you're a guy who owns 10 grocery stores, a big white guy, and your income drops 90% overnight. So suddenly these guys were saying, sorry, we didn't mean it. Like, could you soften the rules again? He'd be like, I'm just observing, and I do believe, I actually do not believe that it doesn't matter what they think. If we're going to create something that's really effective, it actually must not rely on them.
Understood.
That's my view.
Yeah, understood. So we've got the 1% with the mass accumulation of wealth. We have the 99%, all of us. Now, what's your views on how us, the 99%, can organize? Or what are the values? What are the markers? What are the intentions we got to cultivate? And where do we even start in this clusterfuck of possibility?
Well, one view I have is actually giving people an access to living an aligned life, to being the source of their own joy.
Yes.
So, I'm working on a few projects right now in this beautiful, quiet time. They're just kind of surging. And one of them is an online platform to take the distillation of a lot of the work that you and I have done and others into a really, really simple platform, giving people access to getting connected to source and living my life, and make it fun as hell. Actually, my outcome I'm working from is it has to be so fun people will play it even if they don't care about alignment, Like that.
Yeah, the last part again, they'll play even if
it's so fun that people will play it even if they don't care about alignment.
I see. Got it.
The thing is, I've been studying implementation for 12 years, and I realized it's not about the wisdom. It's all there. It's about implementation.
Absolutely.
So putting joy back in the hands of people and alignment changes everything. I have to deal with even how much of my own work it makes obsolete, because then when people are aligned, they don't need coaching around whole bunches of things. There's no conflict. You don't need conflict resolution. Onwards and onwards. When people are joyful aligned, they buy and consume way less things. I could go on. I'm working at this, balancing the earth and everything.
That particular piece is huge. When
Yes.
people are naturally fulfilled, they're having real connection. They're having human to human spirit connection. We're enriching as it was for thousands of years as human connect. Us Indians, we know this. We get to eat together, sleep together, we yell together, but it's all done around the meal. And then we get together and we go about life, and everything is healthy and harmonious, much more because we're in this true relationship of humanity. Right now, we're so segregated and siloed, even in our own houses.
Yeah.
But you're expressing that when we come back to our human nature, which is what we've all been about, our true form, our true flow with each other, and this incessant neurotic need to be able to get continuous stimulus from purchases, from consumerism, from more whatever. I mean, you look at Elon Musk. I just saw an interview with him yesterday with Joe Rogan, and he's selling all his possessions. He's getting rid of all his possessions. So this is an interesting, 4-minute mile breakthrough, seeing billionaires liquidate so that they can come back to true wealth.
Yes. And my challenge to him is, because somebody sent me that the other day, said he's following your footsteps, because I did that 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I only have 2 bags in a motorcycle, except I gave everything away.
Yes.
And the space of the cleanliness of having like that, and not even having that much in the bank, I got to tell you, it keeps me, it's like living off the land in the jungle, so present.
You've been spending time in the jungle too. Can you share about that?
Yeah. Yeah. So dude, this is such a crazy cool journey, man. So I gave away everything I own except just what I had carrying on my back. And I said, I'm going to just be in service of the earth. You know, the world, I had a view for a while that the earth is one organism, we're cells in the organism, there's separation. I've had these dialogues like a direction from Earth Mother for some time. At first I thought I was crazy, but then whenever I followed it, it worked better than my own stuff. And can I prove it? No, but if it's either real or it's a delusion, if it's a delusion, it's working really, really good. So, you know,
Well, there's a lot of delusion going on, so
yeah,
it's all cool. It's working towards some
that's right. I have
alignment.
a better delusion. That's right. So, anyway, so dude, I give everything away, and I'm traveling, going wherever the call is, wherever I can be of service. And then I end up invited by Gabor into the jungles and stuff like that. And I end up doing an intensive ayahuasca intensive 8-day, man. Some medicine work. And on the first ceremony, it was so weird. You go through them, you go through all these different spaces. So Earth Mother came to me at the beginning, that's what it felt like. And she said, okay, so you've given yourself to me. I'm going to bring you to my heart. I'm like, oh, cool. Where am I going to go? Center of the earth. What am I going to see? How do I perceive this? Suddenly, I was transported to a hillside in a jungle. And I'm just staring at that hill, and I'm waiting for the next thing to happen. And the entire night, I stared at that hill, and that's it. I memorized it. I would just, but nothing. I never went anywhere else for 6-7 hours. I got up, I shared it with others, talked with the shaman. Nobody could explain anything. It was like, okay. And it was really intense, and nothing was happening. 9 months later, I get a call from somebody in Colombia saying, there's a tribe here that's heard about you, and they would like to meet with you. Would you be willing to meet with them because they think you can help them? So I'm like, okay, I'm going following the call. It felt right. So I show up at this place that I never heard of before, the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, where there's these tribes of which the Kogi, K-O-G-I, the Kogi are the most well-known. They've only, some of them only made contact with the outside world 30, 40 years ago. Very original culture. So I go in there, get in. After a couple of days, we go into these very isolated areas where outsiders are not allowed. And second day there, I come out of a cabin and turn around and walk behind it, and there's the hill from my vision. And I'm staring at it, but you have to remember, I stared at this thing for hours. I'd never heard of this place, and I memorized especially one spot. Like it was like this exact. And then I'm like, and then this elder comes to me and starts talking about the story of the land. And he says, this is known as the heart of the planet. Wow. Okay, dude. So I'm like, I start babbling, and I said, and I'm like just a basket case. Like finally my babbling runs out, and he's, now they're just sitting, he's just staring at me. And finally, when I'm done, he just nods and he goes, yeah, welcome back. And that was my introduction to the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, known as the heart of the planet. And after spending time there, I've had other experiences like that where I actually get it's the heart of the planet. You see, their language is very clean, and they don't bother to say something if it's not how it is.
Wow.
And I started to get, the whole region, they have all these energetic points, which they go and they take care of and do ceremony on. It's all like acupuncture for the earth. They talked all about this happening, and they talked about illness this illness for them is a symptom. It's not an illness, it's a symptom. The body, which is the whole earth, is ill, and the symptoms showing up. It's very simple and very clear. And their knowledge of the earth is just, first it still is remarkable, but it was so mind-blowing being in their presence. And then I learned about how it happens. Like they're chosen, the mamos, the leaders are chosen at birth, like a lama, energetically. And then they're raised for sometimes 15 years or more in the dark first, in caves, maybe let out at night, maybe not. But It's all about them developing all of their senses and being able to listen to and feel the earth.
Yes.
And it's
so 15 years, mostly in the dark. Wow.
In the dark.
Wow.
And you can see it in their ability. It's kind of like a Zen a monk who can change his bodily functions. That kind of presence with their body, they're like that with the earth. And having done the work for 2 decades in training too. So it's been an incredible journey, spending time in those jungles, sitting with them, talking, discussing, looking, how can I help serve them and the planet, them, that, and out of that, Satya, what happened was, in my quest for the transformation of the planet, I never realized how much I did not have the earth as it, and that's why I was failing to achieve the whole thing, because I was like, I was just working with humanity.
Yeah, we were human-centric rather than Mother Earth or Gaia-centric.
That's right. And so, and then it was like it added the last layer and everything popped. And so many things that I saw there that I 25 years ago would have never believed. And I asked Earth Mother, if you were guiding me, why didn't you show me this back then? She said, because you needed to understand the world of the person who doesn't believe this and be successful in that world.
Yes.
So you needed to see each one of these things needed to happen in these layers.
You know, in the terrestrial world, the human world, we have this whole science branch, systems thinking, but it's very related to our human-centric relations, our human-centric systems. For me, there's Gaia-centric, and it's its whole complex system. But to me, it's not. When we relax open the mind, I believe, like birds, they know how to make, they know where to go, they know how to make nests. Yes. We have built in us a complete systemic wisdom, once given the opportunity to come out of its slumber, come out of its atrophy, and reawaken to and plug in to the network, the mycelium Gaia consciousness that's here.
Yes, and I have a view that I have one possible reliable path to that, which is, Satyan, from my observation, my work with myself and others, is 2 things that need to be kind of cleaned out so you can hear that. Or let me say like this, and there's a kind of a paradox in it, as usual, right? The first thing is the practicing of relinquishing self-interest. See, all of my self-interest, all of my self-concerns, they create a noise, which allows me to not be able. So all of the stuff that I'm creating, it's becoming so remarkably effective. It's coming through me. It's not me. I'm not smart enough, right? The more I cleanse myself of self-interest, the more boom is there. And then the other part of it is I have to focus on myself, but not for myself. Cleaning up my integrity, my purity, my alignment, the crap. Right? It's like conditioning for your Olympic soccer team. You're doing it on you, but it's not for yourself. So relinquishing self-interest and cleaning and the alignment, the purity, integrity of space, cleaning up your physical space, your administration of your life, relationships, every resentment and regret. And the more you clean it up, it's like it was always there.
Absolutely. In our work, we call it cycle completion. Where are the ends? Where is the mind? Where's incomplete communications? Where's there's incomplete relationships? Where's there stack up within? Where's there's unresolved, fulfilled communications? You want to be understood or you want to understand others. It's not happening. Where's there leftovers in the past that are continuously snagging you about? So get present time by cleaning up the integrity, the clarity. And this is an ongoing, right? This is an ongoing practice.
Yeah. It's just like you keep cleaning your house, your bathtub, man. And it's like you should not. And even the whole thing, and then creating this alignment game is creating a really fun way of doing it, like so that people can like love the game. We're talking about love the cleanup game. So, and by the way, and anchoring it somewhere in you. So I kept hitting this wall. The 2 things that were, one was the earth was missing, and this was the other thing. And at the end of our work, Satyan, we always say, people, turn your attention to be of service, right? Here's where we got locked in. Or sorry, this might be, again, all this just might be right. So we hit this level of, I don't know, without arrogance, some level of competency to mastery in the world field of personal development or self-help or whatever you want to call it. But that was the problem. It's personal development. It's self-help. And we can't work in that paradigm. It has to be earth help or earth development or society. You get what I'm saying? Like, oh my God. And when that popped for me, it's like everything that in the earth allowed me to flow into the next phase.
You know, my friend Daniel Schmachtenberger talks about this term I really love. He calls it omni-win. And it's based in the Bodhisattvic surrender, the idea that we as an individuals, you know, are here for the great. We're not here for the greater good. We are part of the good of the greater. Yeah. And when we tap into that and recognize and remember without being cut off, you know, I always use this, you know, 3-stage philosophy, the me within, and there's a natural growing stage where we're aiming as young people to try to fulfill that need. Me, I become somebody, let me be somebody. What will it take for me to be somebody? What possessions do I need? What type of lifestyle? What family members? What my wife, my husband looks like, et cetera, right? So there's a period in life where we're very me-centric. And then when we get sick and tired of it, or that might not be ever happening in one's life, but for some people, they might get sick and tired of it at some time, fulfilling the self. Then we start moving, we get it wider, and fulfillment comes from being we-centric, we. But even then, we could be established in we for years and feeling the goodness, the exchange of value, the fairness, the rightness, the flow. But eventually that will burn out as well. And that's this lost phase where I believe is the deepest invitation for me, we, but the greater whole, the greater good, being Mother Earth, not just being a servant to being Mother Earth, but being Mother Earth. When I was in the jungle years back, she said to me, Mama Aya, or Earth Mother, she says to me, she goes, I don't want any more followers. I don't want devotees. I don't want any more children saying mama. Don't even call me mama. She was slapping me around. She says, I want husbands. She's talking to me. She, like, because she says, you can treat your wife, you can treat your mom like shit. You can forget phoning her. You can ignore her, and mom's still going to love you. Well, you know, most moms, right? Still going to love you, forgive you. But if you treat your wife that way, are you kidding? You're going to get in a lot of shit. Yeah. So she demanded that I treat her and I accept her and I love her as a wife, meaning I'm responsible. I take care of the house. I take care of the place. I take my stand as a man on this planet, not as a child like this.
Absolutely. Said something similar when I was deep in the jungle and seeing these amazing guys. He said, don't worship this. Respect it. You don't want them to go see your cell phone because they've never seen it before and worship it. It just has a purpose. You don't want them to worship a car. Just understand it, respect it. Do not worship. You need to understand, respect it. You just flip into another dogma, flip into another righteous indignation, you know? No.
Another another spiritualized self-importance trip.
Yeah.
So what you shared about, number one, practicing relinquishing self-interest and focusing on myself, but not for myself, for the greater good, for the greater whole. So, you know, in our body of work, we've talked about the kink of self-interest or the kink of self-importance.
Yeah.
And that can show up in two ways. The one we all know about is self-aggrandizement, megalomania, being big in your ego. Look at me, who am I? You know, I'm the boss, I'm the king, all of that stuff, right? So we know that version. But then there's also the subtler side, which is I'm not good enough. Woe is me. I'm only a little ant on this place. There's people, gurus, masters, teachers, billionaires, whatever the deification is external to us, that we have this relationship where we make ourselves smaller than in reality. And I believe what you're sharing is somewhere in between. It's not allowing yourself to be that or becoming the other end of the extreme, but I'd love to hear your share on that. Where's where's the right relationship to be a steward and a supporter of reality in this world?
Well, I would invite us to create a conspiracy. Like one way of looking at life is it's all conspiracies. And right now, my view of it is, if I were to, just for simplicity's sake, combine numerous methodologies and disciplines into a simple, what determines human behavior? Most of the human behavior is by the one motivation of avoiding discomfort. as an adult. So we're in a comfort conspiracy. Don't do this, like, you know, everything that's happening. Nobody wants to get up here. So a conspiracy for both of those two extremes that you said becoming irrelevant and obsolete. And one of my invitations when I said, "Wow, I would love to get together with these people like you're like that. I want to discuss something like that. All of us creating a space of the simplicity of this transition, and even all of our old methodologies and like that, keeping a complexity in place, like boom, right? So, you know me, I'm just obsessed by observing and watching and this and trying experimenting. Well, I'm discovering that people can make things that I used to do in a week, like in 10 minutes, if I get the right spot. Here's the deal. So there you are on the soccer field, and you don't go myself into look at me, I'm so good, I'm like this and like that, right? And you're like, oh, I'm not good enough. Or if you did either of those, your teammates are like, dude, you gotta know that. And because of that work we talked about, environment changes things. Like I have done this work of all of this training and throw people back in the same old environment and very little sticks. I did some experiments where I shifted people's environment with no training, and it was incredible to shift. I found how profoundly full of shit we are. I'm always getting deeper levels, but I could take somebody who's normally sensitive in the office, at home, like that, and I put them on a soccer field and it all disappears. Why? Because that environment doesn't tolerate it. It has no room for it. So I already know, I look at you. I know you can. I know you cannot have to go to either one of these. I know it. If I put you in the right place, you'll be chasing the ball and alive.
So the condition is so valuable. The how we set up the environment, the condition. Please flesh that out a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, that's why it needs to be a conspiracy. I need a bunch of people that we can create an environment for people to be up here. So it's like let's let me flesh it out like this. I have this view. I call it the competency of being exercise, the competency of being experiment. So most of us know about this thing about how as human beings we will adjust to a midplane, which is that if you walk in, experiments have been done. People walk in and say the normal performance is 5 units in a week. So people do 4 or 5 or 6, whatever they normally do. And if they're told it's 10, they'll do 9 or 10 or 11, right?
Yes.
So imagine you go to a ski hill, and on a ski hill, everybody almost all the time is lying on their ass. And they get up for 2 seconds. The experts get up for 10 seconds. You know how you'll kind of adjust. You'll stop at the level that's happening around you.
Yes.
So, but people see people really skiing, so they keep getting up and keep getting up and keep getting up until they're there. So, something people come to our trainings and our workshops, our retreats. They get up and they stay up for a bit, and then they go back out there where everybody's on their ass.
Yes, that's right.
And then even worse out there, if people stay up too long, other people will pull them down even.
That's right.
And and we get together sometimes, we sit down and we create an environment. People like to work in our operations because they get to stay up longer.
Yeah.
I think it's a complete myth about how difficult it is. It's only our commitment to an environment like that. We could create a competency in being as easily as the world created a competency in skiing or anything else, as easily.
Let me give an example from my life so people can dial it in another angle. So my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu master, Marcus Soares, has his school down the road from me. I'm over here. We've got my home gym here. It has a particular energy. It has a particular environment. When we go in there, there's a particular energy it draws us in. It evokes us into being in how we train. But it's a whole, it goes up another notch when we're with the master and in that place. Why? Because we're dealing with world-class martial artists. We're dealing with everyone. There's no like pep talk. Marcus doesn't give any pep talk. He doesn't say, hey, everyone do their best today. There's none of that. It's inherent in the expectation that you're going to play your best just when you walk in. There's no pre-framing. There's no education. There's no onboarding. The vibe itself pulls us up. And when you see other people working out their best, giving their all, being friendly, being joyful, lending a hand up, then after a while, then you lend a hand up to all the people underneath you. And in the jiu-jitsu environment, the higher belts lift up the younger belts. And when you're younger, you're there. But then when you move up, your job is to lift the others up. There's no written rules around this. There's nothing said about it, but it's all happening and everyone is spiraling up. So there's, for me, a real life example of what you demonstrated or what you shared about.
For me, it's the whole thing. So there's something that I think is very important and I'll play it in a regular thing. So I move it to maybe some radical, right? So it's all environment. Like you said, there's no rah-rah because almost everything we do is compensatory for a weakness in the environment in the first place.
Yes.
See, listen, I made so much success out of like handling things in the environment. I couldn't do it anymore when I had to break through because I realized, wait a minute, I only have to coach you guys in communication because you have a disconnected environment. There's no training in medical school for an anesthesiologist to say, hey, if your patient's not under yet, and he should be, it's okay. You can tell the surgeon, have courage. You don't have to say that because in that environment, it would never occur. It would never occur. So we don't create environments that are so connected and so, in all high performance environments, it's like, boom, you don't think about it. You just like that. So everything is compensatory. And I dug into that further and further. And I go, well, look at it's so arbitrary in an environment. If anybody of us went outside in front of our house on the street and lie down and tried to starve to death, we couldn't do it.
No.
Because in today's environment here, it doesn't allow for that.
Yes.
There are places that you could, if you go back enough time, you could, but so we draw the line there. We could, as a conspiracy, draw the line is that if you fall down from joy, we're going to intervene. We could. Right? It's arbitrary. And I started to really dig into it. And then it kind of blew my own mind where I'm like, sometimes you have this shift and you're like, you can't talk because you're like, I'm talking from that old world and I can't. So I have a view that almost everything we do, everything we teach, all of our language is almost all compensatory. So like this. So first I was in the jungle and I was explaining how they live. And so somebody said, that's permaculture. And I go, what do you mean? Then they explained it to me. Now they don't call it permaculture. That's just how they do it. But we only have the words permaculture or organic because we went away from it, right?
Yes, the compensation for that.
Yes, so we have like all of this languaging because we went away from source, so we have to make the language of it, right? So I'm sitting there going, I'm trying to find any language that we really need to keep. And then I studied, I study a lot of things. And the longest living cultures, they don't exercise, but they're active all day.
Yes.
Like exercise is ultimate. I'm not saying it's bad, but it is a compensation for not being active.
Yes.
Right? Then I got really into it. And down in Peru, I met this traveling elder from a very remote tribe who they have very little language. And he also was saying it's compensatory. And we're starting to go through it. And you go, you only have to come up with the word freedom if there's not freedom. If there's nothing but freedom, you don't even have to, do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
We get so fascinated by all of these. Anyways, I'm going to go a long time on that, but you start to actually go. And when you're on the soccer field chasing the ball fully in the game, all of the words disappear. You just, the joy of that, playing with your child, like these, it's not complex.
No. It's interesting. You and I, we get to circle around in certain worlds, think tanks, organizations here for the greater good, many things. And my experience of many of these is there've been a lot of talk about the magic word is coherence. It's a very big word right now. Coherence, everything working together, alignment. I call it love, just humans get along, like people get along, right? But, I understand what they mean by it. But what's happening is it's all this speak as you share, but there's not the energy of coherence, or it's not a rising out of source. It's a rising about thinking about how to return to a sourceful state, and mindless, endless complications, theories, philosophical debates, extrapolations, almost as if the brilliant minds are fascinated by listening to their own minds and brilliance.
I would challenge two things. I would challenge the almost. I'm not kidding.
I was being.
I get that. That's just to kind of land a little point in there. But and the other thing is, and this is one that I really dug into because I get called to also coach some others, and I saw that wherever something's off, there's often a blind spot. And I don't mean this in a diminutive manner, but the lie is that they're trying to get back to source. It's my observation is that that's not true, and I could see myself in it when I wasn't too. It's because source is missing, and therefore things are out of alignment, and we have that disquiet, that thing that's from us is missing, and it's the chasing of that they to relieve the experience of life that exists because we're out of source.
Yeah.
We're disconnected from source.
Say the last part again.
Yeah, it's not to return to source, it's to relieve the experience that we're having because we're not connected to source.
Yes.
And that's why because dude, how brilliant are they and how effective? If it really was that, and if it really was the intention, we would be there.
Exactly. I'm responding to some friends here on our page here. If you all have any questions or shares, please feel free to do that. Okay, you can go ahead and put some stuff here on the comments.
So let me give you an example where I saw this company and we go, source is missing, our results are down. Why? Because source is missing in the enterprise. And then, and then they were doing all these things to return it to source, but they weren't. Why were they, you can only return to source because the reason is to return to source, but the reason was in order to change the numbers. So that was actually the thing. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, so the motive is not to return to source. The motive is when we're in source, there's some type of production that's happening, that's fluid, that's magical, that just spontaneously arises.
Yeah.
So we're having a lust for the outcome of being sourced rather than the joy of being source.
Exactly. And that's not source.
That's right.
And that's why no matter how much you work inside of it, if I'm trying to return to source in order to something else, I will never get to source.
It always backfires. It always backfires. And the attempt backfires.
That's right.
Because even though there might be some type of meta intention that might have some altruism, some of it, but as long as it's mixed with the motive of gain,
that's right,
which is the paradox,
yeah.
And to share this with business leaders. So yeah. I'm in the world as you are with business leaders. We work with many business leaders. And I'm just starting to see the inkling of some of them starting to get that is enough, and the vibration, the settling in to the living of source, then the mind falls away, literally the mind falls away, and spontaneous arisings that are beautiful, artful, joyful, creative, all happen. And the moment the mind comes back in, it wants to create architecture and put this into 6 steps or 7 easy steps or into the next. Yeah.
So here's my observation, the cycle and the consumption of the earth. We're disconnected to source and we mislocated it. So then we chase, let's in business, let's talk source versus growth. So the attention is on growth. And even if they talk about source, it's sort of produce growth, but they're different. So they chase growth because they want a particular experience of wholeness that's missing. And they think some level of achievement is going to produce it. It doesn't. It just keeps consuming things faster, right? And then the more you do that, the further you get away from source. And the further away you get it from source, the more you chase growth, thinking that it's not enough growth yet. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So
it makes insane sense.
Yeah. And therefore, I try to tell people, and listen, I had this crazy thing happen in all of this where I helped companies grow massively. And then I can't do that anymore because I just help them consume the world at a much faster rate, making stuff people don't need.
Exactly.
And then then I had to bring the earth into it. And now I have a new model, the earth regenerative business model, life regenerative business model. But the thing about it is everything flips. And the whole thing happened was this is an important part of it I'd love to share, if it's okay.
Please, please.
But so I went through these phases because I think it helped to share this. I went first, I always wanted, people to be happy. So then I said, what do you want? People say, I want to grow my business. Help guy triple his business. Later, he's more stressed and less happy. Damn. Okay. Jumbo had a bunch of steps. I'm going to have people get really sourcefully connected to something before they choose what they want, before I help them achieve it.
Yes.
So I did that, helped them achieve things. It was better, but there was still something not whole. Jump ahead a few steps. And then I go, oh, they want to achieve that so they can have a particular experience. The real win, I thought I was brilliant, was help get them to the source of the experience, not the physical result. So I helped them get behind their like joy and this and that. And it was still better, but there was still something missing. Help them achieve things. It was better, but there was still something not whole. Jump ahead a few steps. But
Oh, hold on a sec.
oh, they want to achieve that so they can have a particular experience.
Okay, we're back. Sorry, go ahead.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, it just
Okay, cool.
A repeat of your page on another page. Sorry.
Maybe that was an important part. I don't know. I didn't think so, but anyways. So then if that still wasn't it, what could it possibly be? And then this crazy realization happened, which is I think it has nothing to do with experience. Chasing experience is no different than chasing a Ferrari. And this totally, so Satya, my entire work, my life, my success was based on, you could put a destination out in front of me, hit this business result, hit this relationship result, hit this, I will exceed it every time, And if you give me all of it, and it was like, okay, then, but the point of navigation is where you're getting to. So what flip was, no, the point of navigation is where you're coming from. And then everything changed. We do have this work of getting people connected with their purpose, their calling, what is their source in life, and having them live for there. And all the promises change completely from, yes, you will get here, to, I can promise you this. You have no idea where you're going to end up. And wherever you end up, you'll be at home. So starting to live from someplace just completely changed the whole playing field. And results started happening at such totally levels that I didn't even know were possible, like right away, because people were shifting where they were coming from. And then you could really see this thing. So you've seen this, lots of people are listening, I'm sure have, is you start to do this kind of work and you start to clean up and get integrity, and then the tree, and then out of here, oh, some fruit pops.
Yes.
Goodies, this business relationship. And either then you start chasing the fruit versus continuing to stay true source and allowing the fruit to grow and collect.
Yes.
And land when it's perfectly ripe.
Yes.
Right? Up there, and it just like boom, and then boom, and you just got to stay in. But then people go out here, they get away from source, and they try to get fruit stops. And they go into the pretending source, but all they want is to pull more fruit out of the tree. And as going further up the line, this whole thing of facilitators and gurus, where they get in trouble, they go much higher up, but then they get, the sex scandal, the big money, like that. But then again, and it's just about staying in source and allowing, and that's the lesson I got from Earth Mother in the jungle. Here's your tree, here's your seed, here's your child. You nurture it and give it exactly what it needs, and then you have to see where it grows. And that's a powerful relationship to source, is you keep nurturing it and giving it. And then out of that, we've created the life regenerative business model, which is, we were just starting to prototype it, and a lot of business said that, we'll get back to it. But what we got is, we got these three things that's in about the environment. So one is, I'd say we are creating an online platform where people can have the most fun time in a community, creating a line life, doing a cleanup, having it be like really funny, like really, we're gonna have it be very funny. Rewards, this, that, games like that. Over here, the life regenerative business model, where inside the business, people do this work so their hearts heal, and the business operates in a net positive impact on the planet, how it lives locally, what it gives to the rainforest, and the more it like that. And then the last element is we're designing the ultimate living space, doing rammed earth construction. Like we're scouring the earth for the very best of energies, of waste systems, going to the indigenous, and and then we're building a home that ontologically also is designed to help people live an aligned life. We're going to take this platform, drop it onto the house of the smart house, so you are actually your house, you're kicking your ass into living an aligned life. We want to revolutionize, so it's not housing, it's living.
So on that note, I have a team called New Gaia that we've been bringing together, which encompasses all that you have just shared. So it's perfect time for us to re-engage.
Excellent, excellent. Because we're
all vibing here at the same time.
We wanted to get out of the talk, and we're going to build a prototype. We're going to get in this world where people are looking. We're going to build it, give people access, put it in their hands.
Oh. Build it, they will come if their eyes are open.
Yeah.
And it naturally has the environment that's compelling, which allows us to naturally, there's so much, let go of this system, let go of this system. You can't let go of this system until there's something over here that's more rich and life affirming, right?
And that's it. Our rule is criticize nothing, only offer a compelling alternative. In our work, in our team, you're not allowed to criticize anything.
Oh, that's a discipline.
Yes,
it's a discipline, and it's a lasering of consciousness, sourced in the heart.
Something I'm working and practicing. I'm sharing it with my team. I really take on, for instance, if I'm online, I do not allow myself to click on something where I know that's only to be righteous and judgmental of what I'm about to read. So I don't want to feed that energy, and I gotta, now I'm pretty good, but I had to catch myself when I first took it on, because I'm going to cleanse that. It makes such a difference to manage where I'm coming from.
Well, right now, this whole COVID experience, so everyone's online, right? A lot of people are online, and we're seeing so much conflict on ideas, philosophies, conspiracies, who's doing what. What the heck do you think's going on? And what would you suggest is a good approach? I mean, there's so many ideas of what's going on, but I'm curious.
Well, I used to believe that I'm clearly not going to have any idea what's really happening, because I just never know all the facts. And well, I still do believe that, but now I got it in my gut. But I knew that as sometimes you get my own intellectual arrogance. Like I could analyze it and I could know it, but then something really kicked my ass 2 days ago, and this is funny. So I've been very careful, thoughtful, mindful about who I listen to and what. One of my very good friends and my crew members is a nurse. She had the COVID. She's very different. She's an ICU nurse. She recovered. She's an ICU, works only in the COVID ward. I find that a useful, incredible source of information. That doesn't tell you about all the other stuff. And you do know that people are using and manipulating. But then there's another fellow who I really trust. He's been through a lot, and he's so particular about where he's coming from in his research and his thoroughness, right? And there's another guy also who I've got a lot of trust of, and he's a doctor, and he's an amazing thinker and everything like that. And where I'm really thoughtful about my sources, and any one of these guys I know where they come from, and if something came from them, I trust it much more than others, right? And then in the last week, they've come out vehemently on opposite sides. And I'm like, my brain just short-circuited.
Yeah. I understand.
Right. And I'm like, so I look at it, and I have a commitment to not get entangled, because I see where there's no way I can have an impact. And sometimes I actually do sit. I said, I have some charge on this. If I really were to invest myself, am I willing to invest myself enough to make an impact in what I see or that I think is, and then no, right? So then I want to let it. I think my take on it is to keep observing and observing every month. One of the things, true or false, the more that happens, as studies of humanity, we get more data. We get a little more. We see the pattern. We learn even by when something's hidden over here, how people react reveals what's hidden. and things like that to some degree. And so my view is to continue to watch, observe, to prepare myself to deal well with what is in front of me, to take care of my mother and sister where I am, my family, and to keep looking where I think impact can be made. And I also have this guidance from Earth Mother. She said, ignore it all and keep doing your work.
Oh,
Because your work is what's going to be. Again, don't wrestle with that. Ours is like that. Be informed by it, but don't wrestle with it. So stay true. I would tell people, do this relinquishing self-interest, clean stuff up, because nothing strengthens your immunity like alignment.
exactly. Being out of alignment.
Yeah, so so observe, listen, be responsible, and understand that there's probably not one thing you're being told on any side that's true.
Yeah.
And in fact, what impacts us is not actually the truth, but what's happening in our environment as a relationship to whatever's happening. That's what you got to deal with operationally. So that's what I share. I really saw that when I saw these two people that I trust having completely open views, which just reminded me that me, it's great to talk to you, to get back to our work, which is building this, where to step to from this. Judging this is going to make no difference. Providing an alternative is an opportunity, and to keep, for me, honoring and appreciating. And I have a mantra that everything is perfect for something, and I have a view that this can make the ground much more fertile for what we're about to bring to the world.
Absolutely. Take complete with us today around what your hope is, your wishes are for the world, and for everyone, my friends listening here today, speaking directly to us. What's your wish for us and the world?
My wish, if I could say one thing, I would really say, that the wish is that you could actually realize you don't actually have to do any more work on yourself. You could just start taking aligned actions every moment. Just do the right thing, and I promise you, and that everything will sort out.
Yeah. Aligned action and do the right thing. Oh, brother, if any of my friends want to reach you, get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Probably easiest, generally just pop on my Facebook.
Perfect.
It's like there. Like you got the link on when you put my name on there. Just you can send me a private message there. I'm taking this up. I'm playing. Normally I'm not on, but I'm on there. I post my funnies every day because I like to try and get a smile from people if I can. So yeah,
Anurag.
I get messages from there. So yeah, so just that's the easiest thing.
All right. Anything else in your heart to share today?
It's just really, really great to see you and hang. We haven't hung out in a while. We've chatted a little bit here and there, and I'm excited that what I'm working on is resonating with what you're working on. I can't wait to get it together then.
Absolutely. And I believe there's many others here who are listening we're working on what seems to be isolated or individual or some little pockets, but I believe that these pockets are getting the same message at a core level of being from Mother Earth, and that our pods, instead of terrorist pods, were becoming creativity pods of consciousness, and instead of CIA agents that are killing people and twisting things around, we're consciousness inducing agents. That's happening now, so I'm really, really glad to be in that. And I invite everyone to find your groove. And as you said, have the aligned action and focus on that. The personal growth, the growth will take care of itself. Will take care of itself.
It will.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.